Right, I think I'm live, just waiting to see. Well, welcome to today's talk. Today I'm going to be talking about how to resist societal pressure to change your appearance. And I know some people might immediately say, but I like changing my appearance. So if that's you, this talk is probably not for you. People have been changing their appearance, I think, since the beginning of time, and it can be very fun and enjoyable. And that's great. This talk is about something different. This talk is about people who feel that if they don't change their appearance, or they can't change their appearance, or they can't improve their appearance from their perspective, it feels awful. And so they feel under constant pressure and they don't feel good enough as they naturally are. And in the long term, there's really no joy in that. And it's not something that I would wish for anyone. And it was certainly my experience that for years I felt under pressure, and that really kind of ate away at me and affected the quality of my life as a whole and kind of seeped into every area. But I don't feel like that now. So I want to share with you how you can resist that pressure so that it no longer feels like pressure that you need to resist. So the first thing I want to talk about is what is pressure, because the more we understand it, the more it helps us to navigate it effectively. So I see pressure as the sense that I need to act urgently to do something, to change something, in this case about myself, about the way I look, in order to avoid some kind of negative consequence. And for me, the negative consequence would really be a bad feeling. And I think that's ultimately what it is, when we feel pressure in many, many ways. So to just break that down a little bit, I used to feel like if I didn't look a certain way, if my hair wasn't a certain way, if my face wasn't a certain way, if my body shape and size weren't a certain way, then other people would judge me. They would have judgmental thinking about me, and I would feel terrible. And what I didn't realize at the time is because I bought into their way of seeing me. And that felt really significant. So, pressure, to summarize, is this feeling like we need to do something urgently. And I think there's an aspect to it where that thing that we feel like we need to do, we don't know exactly how to do it. So it's stressful because we're not sure whether we can do it. Because to get the body and the appearance that I thought I needed felt very challenging and always out of reach. So my weight was a big thing for me. So even if I got to a certain weight, then there would always be something else that wasn't quite right. It wasn't enough weight. It was rarely enough weight, but there were always other things about my appearance that would come up. So the pressure came because no matter what I did, no matter how hard I tried, I just didn't feel like I could do what I needed to do. And I wasn't even sure sometimes what I should do. Like, should I follow this program? Should I pay for that? Should I prioritize this? Should I tackle it in this way? And so it felt like this pressure because I just didn't know how to do what I thought I needed to do. And there was a sense of urgency around it. So it's an unpleasant position to be in. And when you live like that for a long time, it tends to have an impact on different aspects of your life. You might develop other symptoms, you might develop chronic pain or headaches, or I didn't have that, but I didn't sleep very well. That's more my tendency. And I felt very anxious. And at times that did build up and it did make me ill because, I just wasn't getting enough rest. So that's the pressure. And from how I'm talking, you can see is quite a fast pace. Even if we're not always aware of it, it's like this thinking, this critical thinking is always in our ear all the time, saying you're not good enough, you need to do something about it. So that, at least to me, is what pressure is. If you've got a different view, I'd love to hear about it, but that's kind of my experience. So how is it created? How is pressure created? When people talk about the body image pressures these days, they tend to think about social media, Instagram in particular. I'm not really on Instagram, but there has been research that shows that when young girls go on Instagram, their mental health goes down, and particularly related to body image. So a lot of people think, okay, so that's the pressure. It's coming from Instagram, let's say. And when I was young, I'm 47, there was no social media, and I wasn't online very much, but I still felt a lot of pressure. So how is it created? Just in a very basic way, we get ideas about how we're supposed to look from a variety of sources in a variety of ways. So that's the first step. Now, there may be no pressure felt because something needs to happen to us, within us, in response to that information that creates the pressure. So let's say you've got someone who's really confident in the way they look, or they're just not interested in that. They're just, for whatever reason, a good reason or a bad reason. Maybe they're obsessed with something, some other negative preoccupation, or maybe they're just really got a passionate interest in other things and they just don't care. They can be aware of that kind of those messages, and they just don't land. They just like kind of go in one ear and out the other, and they don't really affect them. So you can see, for pressure to be created, something has to happen within you for you to feel pressure. And I can see this really clearly. It's hard to see it when you're in it because you just feel like the pressure's coming from the outside. But like if I were to go on Instagram now and see ads or whatever, influencers saying, look at my great body, or this is how you get a body like me. I could be wrong, but I don't think I would feel pressure to do anything in response to that. Whereas in the past, I would have felt massive pressure. So something has changed within me. And I think that's really hopeful if you are feeling this pressure to change your appearance, or that your appearance is never good enough. You can know that if something changes within you, you'll stop experiencing that pressure. And it may be that it's not very black and white, that, you have a shift and you never experience pressure again. It might be a gradual process, as I think it was really for me. So how is the pressure created? We see the imagery, or we hear someone saying to us, you really should lose weight, or you're skinny fat, you need to put on muscle, or how do you manage, being so short? Or you could sort of insulting things like, or suggestions, for your skin, you can get this thing. Like, so the implication is there's something wrong with your skin. Or, that kind of advice that you didn't ask for. Unsolicited advice about how you look. Oh, sorry, something's popped up. That can be one way. You can get direct, over explicit criticism. People saying to you, you look terrible, you need to do something about it. In my case, I didn't really get a lot of that. Maybe here and there. It sort of happens a bit more, not very often these days, because I'm speaking up about this issue, so that can attract some trolls. But another way is just that you can pick up these ideas much more subtly. So you can watch movies, let's say, and all the heroines and all the heroes conform to certain standards of appearance. And the people who aren't happy, the people who are pitied or bad things happen to, they don't conform with those standards. And so you can start to build up this picture in your mind of how you need to look. So there's all those ideas, and you feel like you need to conform with these standards. But why? Why is there pressure? Because we are told and we get the message that a lot is at stake. So if you want to be popular, you need to conform with these standards of appearance. If you want to have a relationship, a romantic relationship, you need to conform. You need to look a certain way. If you want people not to laugh at you and not to ridicule you, you need to look a certain way. If you want respect, that's often a big one for men. If you want respect, you have to, but I've heard women saying that as well, you have to look a certain way. If you want to be desired, if you want to have an enjoyable sexual relationship, you have to look a certain way. Yeah, so if you want to be popular, I mean, some people even go so far as, if you want to get a job, then you need to look a certain way. So, most of the things we care about in life, we can pick up the message from other people that our bodies need to conform with the current beauty standards for us to get all of those things that we really, really care about. So, of course, as social creatures who have evolved to feel like we need to be accepted by a wider group in order to survive, that's the brain that we've still got, where we feel like it's life and death if we're not approved of. That creates pressure. And these standards are very difficult to meet for most people. I mean, occasionally some people, their bodies and their genes and whatever and their lifestyle, they happen to for a while, and it's usually not forever. It is easy for them. Some people it's while they're young. Other people it might be while they're very active. But we all get older and we can all get ill and things happen in life. And usually for most people, it's not possible to conform with the beauty standards very easily most of the time. And for many of us, it's just always out of reach. Like, especially if you're a man, let's say, and you think the standards are telling you that you need to be over a certain height and you're not, that just feels impossible. So there's a lot at stake, or we perceive there to be a lot at stake. And of course, when it's a life or death thing, or feels like it is, it's easy to get very hung up on it and to have very intense emotions about it. And it's understandable that we would become obsessed with it. If we feel like our happiness, our well-being, our ability to get what we want in life are at stake, then of course it's understandable that we will develop a kind of addiction to this thinking. So that's where the pressure comes from. It's two things coming together. One, there's our innate desire for approval and to have a sense of belonging. And then there's all these ideas that we come across in many areas of life that tell us that in order to get that, you need to tick certain boxes when it comes to your appearance. So how do we resist this pressure? And perhaps that's not the best way of talking about it, because it implies it's a battle, and it isn't a battle for me. So I want to reassure you about that. It doesn't have to be like a fight. Initially and at some points it may well feel like that, but ultimately it doesn't have to be like that. So perhaps a better way of putting it is to say, how can we have an inner shift such that what formerly seemed to create pressure with us no longer does? That's a long sentence. Hope you get what I mean. So the first thing, and it's something that I've touched upon before, is that we need to see clearly our own role in creating this pressure. Because we can feel like it's really coming from the outside. It's like, oh, it's from Instagram, oh, it's from comments from our partner, it's from comments from our friends. And those things are perhaps half the story, depending on how you look at it. But we need to respond to that in a particular way and buy into those ideas in order to create that pressure. So that's the first step out of it, is to see what we're doing to ourselves. And it's completely innocent. People don't choose to do it. I never chose to do it. Who would choose to do that? Who would choose to make themselves be miserable? We only do it because we're not aware we're doing it. It's just happening. And we need to stop doing it. We need to bring it into our conscious awareness. So it's like slowing down in real time. Like, let's say somebody says to you, oh, have you tried this skin cream? And then you're like, oh, everybody thinks my face looks terrible. And what am I going to do about it? Oh, maybe I should try that. But I've tried so many things and nothing works and nothing ever helps. And I feel so ashamed of how I look and I never want to go out again. So stop, see what's going on. You have a comment, and it's then triggered a load of thinking. And you feel that thinking. When you're thinking, I look terrible, you don't feel good, obviously, right? You feel like your well-being is on the line and you're not good enough and you'll never be good enough, or you don't know how to be good enough, and you're going to try to be good enough, but it's, probably not going to work because it never has before. So can you see that's all that thinking is where your direct experience of pressure is coming from? Because let's say somebody said to me now, hey, do you know that there's this cream you can get that would, like, it would maybe get rid of some of the lines on your face. I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't think I would feel pressure. I'd think, wow, why are they saying that to me? Like, well, I didn't even ask for that and I'm not interested in that. What's going on for them? Clearly, they're really kind of bought into all these beauty standards. I might find it rude, but if I'm feeling more generous, I'll think about like what's going on for them and what they've been through and what their life is like, that makes sense to them. So there's no pressure. There's no pressure. So that is something that you can try. You can think, when I see something, it typically makes me feel pressure. It's like a lot of people talk about watching dramas these days with a lot of nudity and things like that. What could my thinking be like? What direction might it go in that wouldn't create pressure? And this is not about trying to make that happen, because I don't think it's too stressful to try and control our thinking, and we can't really do it. It's always just sort of happening. But what that does for me is it opens my mind to other possibilities, and I feel like it sort of stretches my mind to think beyond my habitual thinking. So it's like a thought experiment. And it may well be that as you heal, what you end up thinking in those kind of situations is not like what you thought it might be, or that it would have to be for you to feel free. So this is not about you kind of planning what you're going to think, because you can't. It's more just an experiment and trying to open your mind to see there are other ways of thinking about the same situation. So you see your own role in creating the pressure. and you play around with that. So the first thing is really just noticing whenever you feel pressure, and you may be feeling pressure a lot of the time, but you just don't notice it. You just feel tense. That's the case for me. I'm often just tense in my body. Or you might not even notice the tension in your body. You might just notice symptoms of things you do, like biting your nails, or you're getting more headaches, or you're not sleeping, or you're eating a lot, or smoking, whatever. Those things we do to try and calm ourselves down, often because we're feeling all of this pressure. So just start to notice more. Notice the tension in your body, because most people, I think it's a physical thing that we tense up when we're feeling psychological pressure. So just start to notice that and to see that it's being created within you. And when you feel tense, maybe inquire, like, what's going on for me? And see if you can find a thought that feels like, yeah, that's it. And don't worry about, trying to get a perfect answer or analyzing, because it's just more layers of thinking. But just be open, step back and like, where is this tension coming from? And then see what occurs to you. And if nothing does, don't worry about it. You don't want to add pressure to the pressure you're already under, right? So the next step, and this is not linear, but this is another part of the process that was necessary for me, was to actually look at the beliefs that are causing the pressure. So to put them in the light, maybe to write them down, to talk about them, and to think about them critically. Now, I've said this to some people in the past, and they just like, that just doesn't help me. That's never helped me. I did that for years. But for me, I just don't really see a way around that. That was necessary for me. Now, for some people, they may just slow down, stop focusing on this thinking for long enough that when it pops up again, they have a different relationship with it and it doesn't look so compelling. And I think breaks definitely help. So doing things that take your mind off this thinking for a certain amount of time so you can relax, it will help. That will always help, because it will just give you more distance from it when you come back to it. Because that's what you want. You want to be able to see it like you're looking at something rather than you're looking through it. So when you look at the world through the filter of this thinking, that's all you see. But when you start to heal, you start to see the filter, and you're still seeing through it. I still see my body through that filter a lot of the time. But because I know I am, it doesn't bother me. Or it doesn't bother me as much. It's not a big deal. So for me, it was necessary to look at the beliefs. So beliefs like, if I don't conform with these beauty standards, everyone will judge me. Is that true? If I don't conform with these standards, I won't be able to get what I want in life. Is that true? If I don't conform with these beauty standards, I'm doomed to be miserable forever. Do you know that? And what our mind does, our mind looks for evidence to support what it already thinks. So that's what you'll be doing all the time, and you'll be dismissing everything that doesn't corroborate what you already think. So this process is about looking for evidence that doesn't corroborate what you think. And it can be challenging and it's humbling. Humility, for me, was absolutely crucial and continues to be crucial if I want to grow. I have to admit that I'm not seeing everything there is to see, and that I have things to learn. So look for evidence that doesn't corroborate what you already think, and you will find it. Equally, if you continue to look for evidence for what you already think, you'll find that too. If you want evidence that people are going to shame and ridicule people when they don't look a certain way, you'll easily find that. But if you look for it, you'll notice that a lot of people aren't doing that. Like when you walk down the street, how many people are shouting abuse at you for what you look like? Maybe it's some people, and that's terrible, and they shouldn't be doing that. But is it everybody? And is it every time you go out? Well, I mean, that might be your perception, but is that actually happening? I mean, another thing to question is like whether you need everyone's approval and respect and admiration for what you look like. I used to want that, but now I realize I don't need that. And I don't even want that. Like, why would I want that? I mean, why we want that is because we just feel so insecure. But try and look at that. Now, a lot of people will then say, yeah, but I don't care what other people think. I get compliments from everyone, let's say, but I don't like the way I look. So you got to think about why that is. And I would put it to you that it's often the case that you've picked up ideas throughout your life, subtly and overtly about how people should look. And that has contaminated and narrowed your perception of attractiveness and beauty. And so it's not like your perception of beauty is original and it's something that's like an innate part of yourself. It's conditioned, it's learned, but it just doesn't feel that way because it's so ingrained and entrenched. And so, given that it is learned, can you see the possibility that it could shift? And you don't have to worry about doing that. I don't think we do that. We just have to be open to that, and then it will happen. I think that this process of reflecting and being open to a fresh perspective, it is important to have help and support and encouragement and to feel solidarity with other people who want the same thing, who want to be free as well. So seek that out. And just be careful about who you seek that out from. Because what I've noticed is that this area, and part of the reason why I'm passionate about working in this area, is a blind spot for many people. For many people who are very, woke and enlightened on other things, they have a real blind spot when it comes to their own body and the appearance of their body. And they can make a lot of little comments just in passing that massively betray, these contaminated beliefs and reinforce them for other people. And so that's not helpful. And I even see this like in therapeutic context, even the whole discussion around body dysmorphic disorder. It's the idea around people who are actually beautiful don't realize that they are, and that's the disorder. But can you see that there's a misunderstanding within that, and there's a whole load of assumptions within that. And those assumptions are that there is a right way to look and there is a wrong way to look. And people just and so the suffering is coming from people not realizing that they do conform. But I reject that entirely. There is no right way for nature to show up in your body and to manifest in your body. There's no right way and wrong way in terms of how you look. It's our thinking, as Shakespeare said, that makes it right or wrong. And I think that's a massively unhelpful misunderstanding that can get promoted. Like people saying, "Oh, you don't look so bad, because you don't look too fat, or your hair doesn't look too grey, or you don't look like." But none of that is wrong. None of that is wrong. And then people get confused with health. Health and your appearance, you need to separate them out, because we as mere mortals don't always know what health looks like for any particular individual. It's going to be a range. We're not all meant to look exactly the same. And even if you are currently unhealthy because of your lifestyle, that doesn't mean that judgment about the way you look is necessary. And it's certainly not helpful. And I think it's very counterproductive. And people get really confused about that. But that's just like a separate issue. If you want to be healthy, you do the things that make you healthy and let go of the outcome, because that's just not on you. Because for so long I was trying to do all the right things for my lifestyle in terms of nutrition and fitness and everything, and I still didn't conform with all the standards. And I thought that was really unfair, but it wasn't unfair. It was just that life wasn't meant to be in a box, where everybody looks exactly the same. Can you imagine if every flower looked exactly the same? How boring that would be. But the trouble is, we have become boring. We've become very narrow-minded as a culture, that we can't appreciate diverse beauty, in every shape and size and color. But when you get to be able to do that, life is just much nicer. So get support. Be careful about who you get it from. And it doesn't have to be therapy or coaching. I'm going to talk about what I'm going to offer soon, but it doesn't have to be that. It can also be, where do you choose to focus your attention? Who are the people you're following online? Are you online a lot? What books are you reading? Who are you hanging out with? So look at your environment, the environment that you're creating for yourself, because you have a role in that. It's your life and you have some agency in that. And I think other people will disagree with this, but I think that does impact what we think about. So let's say I spent all my time with, anorexic ballet dancers and gymnasts and models, bulimic models, let's say. I mean, is it going to help me if if I'm feeling insecure about my appearance? I mean, now it might not be an issue, but if I'm trying to heal, is that going to help me? And anyway, why would I be doing that? Like, why would that be of interest? Because so often people are like saying, oh, there's these men or these women and they're saying these things, and it's like, it's so awful. And it's like, stop listening to them for your for your own sanity. It's important to look at your environment and be intentional and conscious about where you choose to place your attention. Because that is really, it's a wonderful thing that we have. We get to choose that. And sometimes that is difficult, because let's say you work in a job and all people are just talking about appearance all the time. So you can't completely control that. You definitely can't control that. But then what you can do is, maybe when you're not at work, you can then choose to place your attention elsewhere. Or when you are at work, you can choose not to participate in those discussions, or ask someone about a completely different topic. So there are always things that you can do. You can't control other people all the time, of course. But most of the time, there are things that we can do to influence our own environment. So another thing that I want to say that I've been thinking a lot about lately is that if you want to heal your body image in this culture today, you're going to have to be a leader. You're going to have to be a thought leader, because our culture is sick. So if you just want to go along with the majority on this, it's not probably going to go well. And it can sound daunting to think, oh God, I can hardly get out of bed. How am I supposed to be a leader? But it doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't have to be like you're standing up in front of thousands of people to make the case for something so people are going to vote for you. It doesn't have to be that dramatic. It can be as simple as you're in a conversation with people, or you're in a room with people and they're all talking about, this person looks great and that person looks awful, or what do you think about this diet, or blah, blah, blah. And it could just look like you not participating in that conversation. It could look like you saying, expressing some of your views on that. It could be like me as a parent, being a leader in this area. I think consciously about my daughter and the situations that I put her into. When she talks to me about things that come up about what people look like, I'm trying to guide her. I can't control how that's going to go, but I can show leadership. Like if she says to me something about my appearance, something critical about my appearance, that is an opportunity for me to show some leadership. It's not, I don't have to then, when we're not healed, we can take things personally and feel like, oh no, people are thinking negative things about me because it's true. But when we realize our agency in this situation, we can be part of the solution and we can be the change that we want to see in the world. And that's very important. And that's kind of the final point I wanted to make, is that a lot of people come to this issue, and they feel very negative, like, oh God, it's awful, all this pressure on, young girls to look a certain way, and now I think on men as well. And yeah, it's not good. But when you just stay stuck in doom around it, that is not an accurate perception, because you're missing something, and you're missing your own capacity to contribute to a brighter future and a better world. And that might sound a bit grandiose, but especially if you have children, create an environment where they're not constantly criticizing themselves, and they're focused on more interesting things, about having fun and being helpful and bringing more love into the world. That is significant. That's how change happens. That's how change happens sustainably. It comes from within people, and it can come from within you. So if you're feeling nothing but doom, you're missing out on seeing your own ability to influence a situation for good or bad. So it doesn't have to be doom. We can come together, support one another to make a difference, make a positive difference. And anytime that suffering comes up for you, and I do feel for you because I know it's really horrible and it feels overwhelming, but every time that comes up, it is an opportunity to respond to it differently, rather than just going round the same circles thinking about this specific bit of your body and how awful it is. You have the opportunity to explore uncharted territory within your consciousness and discover something new about who you are and the potential that you have to bring love into the world and to yourself. And then miracles happen, and you can start to perceive yourself with less judgment. And that's really exciting. So if you'd like my support with that, if any of this interests you and you want to explore it more, I'm going to be offering a 12-week body image healing meeting series. It starts on Tuesday, the 29th of April. I'm offering 2 meetings a week. One is Tuesday evenings UK time. One is Wednesday during the day UK time. Now, no one signed up for the Wednesday thing yet, so I don't know how viable that is, but you can let me know if you're interested in them. But the people who signed up so far have signed up for the Tuesday evening time. And it's for 12 weeks. The first 4 weeks will be free. After those 4 weeks, you can decide whether you want to pay a monthly subscription of £30 for the remaining 2 months. And you could just do one more month, or you could do both. You're just paying monthly. So you can have the opportunity to cancel your subscription. You won't pay anything initially, before the first payment is taken. So you can essentially try them out for free, try the meetings out for free and see if they help and if you like them. And so there's 2 meetings per week, free for the first 4 meetings. Then it's £30 per month for the next 2 months if you want to continue. About the meetings themselves, they're going to be on Zoom. A lot of people who struggle with body image are understandably self-conscious about their appearance. So if you don't want to switch on your camera, you could please come along anyway. I don't want that to be a barrier. But it's not probably going to be one of those things where you just come along and listen and be in the background, because in my experience of things I've held recently, not that many people come. So just be aware of that. If you really want to be silent, of course, it's a free country. You have free will. It's up to you. Well, at least it depends where you are, whether it's a free country, but at least in my Zoom meeting, you will have that freedom. And what I'll do is whoever comes will divide the time between you equally. So it's going to be a 90-minute meeting. So say there's 2 people, you'd have 45 minutes each. Now you can use that time how you want. You can use it just to share and not get any feedback. And you might think, well, what's the point of that? But I found for myself that it does really help me to get it all out, to be heard, not to be interrupted. That can help me slow down enough that I can start to see things differently. I can start to have a change of mood, and that can be helpful in and of itself. But of course, if you want feedback on what you shared, and you can be quite particular about that, maybe you say you don't want advice, whatever. If you want that, I stand ready to support you, and I will share whatever I think makes sense in the moment that could be supportive of you. And if you're the only one that comes to the meeting, you'll have the whole time. Obviously, if there's several people, there'll be less time. But I hope more people will come, obviously, because I think it's interesting and helpful to hear from other people, to see that you're not alone, even if the specifics are different. Because you might be like, oh, they've got perfect hair or whatever, but I would urge you to try and look beyond those superficial differences to see what are the thoughts and feelings, what are the habits, and you'll see so much commonality. And that is a really lovely thing that can help us feel closer to other people, feel a sense of belonging. And remember, that's what we're going for with this, trying to get our appearance, trying to get approval for our appearance, is we want that sense of belonging. So if you can get that another way, in a healthier way, that feeling of compulsion that you need everyone's approval for how you look can start to soften, because you're going to feel more relaxed, more held, more supported, more loved, more appreciated for who you are naturally in this moment. I think that's everything I want to say on those meetings. And yeah. So there is if you want to read a bit more about the meeting times and all of that, you can go to the hopefully there will be a link. I'm not very good at this stuff, but hopefully there will be a link next to this video, which links to the Facebook post that's got all the details. And hopefully there will also be a link to the form where you can sign up. And to register, you just have to complete and submit that form with like your name and basic details. And you need to do that by 9 p.m. UK time on Friday in order to get the first month of meetings for free. So I hope you'll come along, even if it's just to like meet other people, although I don't know how many people are going to come, so I can't promise that. But just to get out of your head, if you've been struggling with this for a long time, if you tried lots of things, this is very low stakes. There's no money, initially. So I really encourage you, if any of this resonates, be brave, be courageous, put yourself first, try and make the time, come along, explore something different. Why not? What do you have to lose? Okay, and if you have any questions, just message me in case you can't find any links or anything like that. I'll just send it to you. All right. I send you lots of love, and I hope you're having a lovely day or evening or night, wherever you are. And I hope to meet you on Zoom soon. Take care. Bye now.